Well, now I just feel like a right D-bag. I was waiting for old Gil to get old Yellard because I just figured he was a villain for this. Like, not saying he was the overall villain in the original game. We know that to be, of course, Pride. But in terms of current day, all the shady eyes and, back talking, trying to expose her, I'm not saying it doesn't make sense, especially given that, well, she was a very mean girl prior to our girl taking over. I mean, she treated her servants like absolute garbage. We know that. But I figured they were going the road of Gil being a kind of scumbag for current Pride and would be her kind of foil. But instead, they flip it on its head and give him one tragic backstory that immediately makes you go from, at least for me anyway, saying, damn, if this boy trips down some stairs and we never see him again, all's well that ends well, to actually, you best cure that fiance. I don't want to see this woman I just met die because I actually feel quite bad for Gil, and that's how you know you have a very good episode of LasTame on your hands, because this was one hell of an episode. Now, if a live reaction to today's wonderful Last Boss Queen episode is available on my Patreon, if you would like to see that, it is over there if you're interested. We have a lot to discuss. Now, I'm not surprised they blue balls us and just started playing the credits, but what I am a little surprised with is the number of anime getting away with having 5-minute episodes this week. I'm not okay. Whether it's yesterday with that undead murder farce greatness, you can't do me like that. LasTame, you can't do me like that. Stop giving me 5 minutes. I expect the full 20-minute package. But like seriously, just what they were able to accomplish with a character I had no love for, but immediately made me say, okay, whether or not it's going to be Arthur and maybe his ability that could potentially cure this woman, or there is someone out there, or they're going to go tragic with it, I don't know. But this secret character unlock who has the ability to basically manipulate age, I mean, that was one hell of a visual when you see him old or you see him young or a normal adult like we're used to. The fact that you have this like declaration, right? He's trying to force his, law that would expose all abilities. And I'm thinking, no. I've seen X-Men, I've read X-Men comics, I know where this goes. Let's kill this fool. He's trying to do some shady things. No, I'm waving my finger, I got my big boy pants on, I'm judging Debbie over here. And then what ends up happening? No. The reason he wants to do that all along is because he needs to find an ability, something that can cure diseases or cure illnesses, something that could save his beloved. And it makes a lot of sense. And when you consider the fact of who Pride was in the game, that is bad. Because would that plan ever have come up naturally in her head? Maybe, but at the same time, we could assume that she would never expose all abilities, which then would give her an arsenal of torturing tools. Like, it's bad enough having a torture chamber, imagine having that, but fueled by people with abilities. The fact that you're trying to expose that and then you just see what that ends up doing and her dying, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. And what I like what they did with Pride in this episode is she kind of feels, because we're now 2 years later than we were at previously, and it's been a long time since she's ultimately played the game, and it's not like she knew it like the back of her hand, so there's things that she's fuzzy with, and some that she can't even really remember was this even in the game. And then, over the course of the episode, she's a little fuzzy, not sure where this is. Oh, it's a secret character, that's why I was a little fuzzy. But then when she realizes that, no, it's not a week from now, like, Pride wouldn't have waited, like, it's today. Your fiance is going to die today, and honestly, the only way that I see this working out is if Arthur is the key, because now Arthur's ability is still up in the air exactly what it does. I think a lot of us are under the assumption it enhances or it speeds up things, because he says like he's made vegetables grow very quickly, but then he's picked up a sword that he's never picked up before and he was a master swordsman. So it seems like he's able to speed things up, whether himself or even plants. And I'm curious to see, because if you think about healing the body, right? Sick in bed or you're wounded, like your legs broke, time will eventually, your body, as long as whatever is damaging you doesn't kill you in the process, it will heal itself. So I'm kind of curious if they're going to go the route of Arthur being able to do something like speeding up the healing of her body, so maybe a month's worth of healing could happen in the span of a couple of seconds. I don't know, just spitballing. Might not be the solution whatsoever. It could be a completely different character, or they could just completely do Heartbreak and kill her. Will they? I don't think so, but at the same time, I am open to that, because it does feel like maybe it's a little too late. But on the flip side, if that does happen, I don't think Gil would hate Pride, but at the same time, if he loses his beloved, which is kind of his entire reason of living, what purpose would he have to really try to help Pride? But if you save that beloved, then he'll become as devoted as Staler Arthur is. So, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty for sure, but it's really interesting because something that I've been complimenting over the weeks here is that rather than what I see with these otome anime like they usually do, they started off and they give you like 8 characters, right? And they say, hey, here's the harem. The males, the females, here's the harem, right? And some characters will develop in that cast and others will just kind of be what they are. And if they do develop, it's like one episode, right? You know, like, okay, here's so-and-so's character episode and that's who they are developed as for the rest of the show. Where Last Boss Queen just is like, hey, let's focus on Stale for a good while. Okay, now we're going to focus on Arthur for a good while. And now, oh, hey, Gilbert was introduced at the start, seems shady as hell. Now we're going back to him rather than just throwing in yet again another character. And rather than it feeling like they're building a harem, no, they're fleshing out a cast of characters. An adopted brother. We have this knight who didn't want to be a knight, but now he's devoted completely, especially for someone like Pride, who showed him the way and treated him so special in a world where he thought he wasn't. And then Gilbert, of course, if you can cure his beloved, then yeah, that's absolutely devoted loyalty going forward. And it's so interesting because when you see the flashback of how this girl was confined to her room night after night, there was no living there because she was sickly. So her only chance of freedom was to just sneak out in the dead of night and browse the town. And then she ends up meeting Gil and they fall in love. The tragic story of I'm gonna get married, but wait for me. And then he says, screw that shit. I'm gonna go become the advisor to the king and I'll marry you myself. And I'm like, damn boy, how did we go from me wanting you to get old Yellard into me wanting you to have that happily ever after? But that's how you know you got a good anime on your hands. Like, I really, really like this show. It is so good. I love how they constantly remind you what evil Pride in the game looked like and how similar the events that we're currently seeing could be with her current day-to-day life now, but it's really good with how they're fleshing everything out. And while I do see probably this Gilbert stuff ending next episode, I'm interested to see where they would take the last third of the anime, because after Gilbert, there isn't a specific character I see, okay, this is the next hurdle, or this is the next person we need to conquer to avoid bad routes or anything. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did bring in a new character, but at the same time, no matter what happens, I know this is going to be good. And politics does corrupt, and the more power, the more things that are put into her hand that she has to choose. Last episode, literally deciding someone's life in the palm of your hands, it is something that does corrupt anyone. And I mean, I've seen some people speculate, like, what if, you know, no matter what, someday she would have to get put down, but not because of the events of the game, but different things. There's a lot to theory craft with, and I think that's one of the things that really makes a show like this very fun to talk about, especially in a weekly format, because there's just so much to break down. But let me know what you thought of LasTame Episode 7. What do you hope to see next week, especially with Gilbert's story going forward? Let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more videos to the channel. And like I mentioned, we do have a full live reaction to today's wonderful episode available on my Patreon, and while you're there, you also get a video shout out. So today we have Gareth Green, Riptide, Kyle Kolachuk, Elsie, Yu-Gi-Oh, G-Bean, Ginger King, and Mai. So I appreciate the support, everyone, and please take care and have a good one.